Let's try this. There we go. This is a poem by Thomas Merton. There is in all visible things an invisible fecundity, a dimmed light, a meek namelessness, a hidden wholeness. This mysterious unity and integrity is wisdom, the mother of all, natura naturans. There is in all things an inexhaustible sweetness and purity, a silence that is a fount of action and joy. It rises up in wordless gentleness and flows out to me from the unseen roots of all created being, welcoming me tenderly, saluting me with indescribable humility. This is at once my own being, my own nature, and the gift of my Creator's thought and art within me, speaking as Hagia Sophia, speaking as my sister, wisdom.
Hello? Yes. What a way for us all to open our Awaken conference, reclaiming our inner wholeness with the energy of the drums, and the beauty of the colors in the dancing, the solemnity and the respect of the stoles, a poem. We're all awaken together. We're all awakening together. My name is Steve Hicken. I'm serving currently as the chair of the board of Illumin. And Illumin, and in its prior form with CAC, has been hosting these annual fall gatherings for about 20 years. This is the first time that we've held this gathering outside of New Mexico. So this is a first, and for this, thank you for coming. Thank you for the team who organized this, the East Coast Collaboratives, everyone who's participated to bring this to being. A big applause. Thank you. Yeah. It's a wonderful surprise, and I think we've all traveled, some not so far, others from a great distance. I heard that we have at least someone from Peru here who's joined us, from South America. And do we have a show of hands, anybody beyond the United States who's joined us? Oh yeah, all right, we have, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we honor your commitments and we share in your joy, and we hope our joy together will build us to reclaim that inner wholeness. If this is your first time at one of our fall gatherings, which formerly were called Solarize, now we're calling Awaken, could you raise your hand if this is your first time at one of these? Yeah, let's have an applause for you. Great. We're absolutely delighted. In fact, I think we're delighting each other, so let's keep doing that. Just a couple of things about some terms you'll hear, MROP and JOI. Okay, what I want to do is I just want to explain these acronyms and what they mean and the depth that they are for Illumin. The MROP stands for Men's Rite of Passage, okay? This is one of the ways that we've discovered that you can be initiated into the JOI. I'll talk about that in a second. But there are many other ways other than the men's rites of passage. We have councils, we have things that happen in life. Life itself, Richard Rohr says, initiates you. So you will hear a lot of encouragement. If you haven't attended one of these to join, please know it comes from the heart. It comes from a place of beauty, not of in or out. We're all in here. So that's the MROP. Oh, thank you. the JOI stands for, and that's a term that from Illumin's first days we coined. We inherited from Center of Action and Contemplation, and in our own experience we built it out. This is the journey that a man enters into, even before the connection with the Lumen, but once with the Lumen, what we intend to do and try to do is to support all men in that lifelong journey of illumination. So this is a lifelong process. It didn't begin here. It began before here. It will continue on. We hope to be a part of that. And finally, what I'll do is I'm just going to read our current mission statement, our vision statement. We're working on this. There's some improved wording, but this is the one we have right now. So I'll just go ahead and read that. And as long as my phone cooperates, here it comes. It goes like this. We are men transforming men through a power greater than ourselves. We are seeking a life-changing spirituality. We are fed by wisdom traditions of forgiveness and radical inclusivity. We recover traditional patterns of male initiation. We affirm a masculine path to healing that reveals the true and false selves and honors the path of descent. We do this through the power of nature, ritual, image, story, and counsel. Finally, we seek to form future generations of men who will restore the practices of nature, image, story, and counsel, building a world that celebrates the beauty of all things. That's what we're about. Thank you. Yeah. Now I'll pass to Gino, who will lead us through a very rich Illumin way of welcome.
Hello, brothers. I'm going to read this welcome, but it's also a prayer for every man here, every person, and the men that support you in your journey, all the generations and the ancestors of men who've become before you and before us. So, as with all things in Illumin, you can listen to this with your head, analyze it. I'm going to Google that later, and you can hear it, or brothers, you can receive it. The choice is yours. We invite you not to hear it. We invite you to receive it. As a fellowship for men's spirituality, we welcome men from all parts of the world, of African descent, of Asian descent, of European descent, of Latin America descent, of First Nations descent, in this land and abroad, native-born and people of mixed and multiple descents and all languages, we say, welcome. We welcome men on all parts of the continuum of gender identity and expression, without prejudice about sexual orientation, living status, whether sexually active or celibate, and everyone for whom labels do not apply, we say, welcome. We welcome people with all physical abilities and challenges, those living with any chronic medical condition, visible or invisible. We say, welcome. We welcome people who identify as activists and those who don't. Mystics, believers, seekers of all kinds, peoples of all ages, and those who make it possible for us to participate in this work. We say, welcome. We welcome all emotions, joy, fear, grief, contentment, disappointment, surprise, and all else that flows through us. We say, welcome. We welcome our families, biological and otherwise, those dear to us who have died, our ancestors, and the future ones, the ancestors who lived in this land, in this place where these buildings are now, and their living descendants whose home this still is. We humbly honor them through this work that we are undertaking. We say, welcome. We welcome brothers who feel lost, struggling, those who suffer from self-doubt and self-judgment. We say, welcome. We welcome the plants that sustain us and give us our very life. May they be safe. May they be protected. May they be honored. We say, welcome. The world of earth, of rocks, stones, and sand, the foundation upon which we stand. May all these be safe, be protected, be honored. We say, welcome. The world of water that courses through our veins, the veins of every living thing, and sustains the earth upon which we depend for our very survival. May water be safe, protected, and honored. We say, welcome. We welcome all beings that inhabit this earth, human or otherwise, the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged and finned, those that walk, fly, and crawl above the ground and below, in air and in water. We say, welcome.
Let's just breathe that in for a minute. Men, welcome. Welcome to the Shenandoah Valley. Welcome here to this moment for awakening. My name's Aris, and I grew up not far from here. I spent some time in these hills with my friends in both the formative and non-formative space of my youth. We had a saying in my circle: I'm fucking up, I'm going to the mountains. And that would inevitably land a couple guys here in Shenandoah camping, walking, joking, connecting, and trying to become more awake to our own present and the things that mattered in it. Mountains carry a special significance. They're seats of power, of mystery, roots of questing and reclusion, points to gain perspective and vision. This landscape, and indeed this specific area, has been a place of significance for many. The restorative and healing properties of springs, that living water that gushes from the mountain, has attracted seekers since there was such a thing. There are relics, memory, and medicine in the springs on this very property, and I encourage you to explore it and see what it has to offer you during your time here. These mountains and my time in them have been gifts to me, one that I hope that you men are a recipient of this weekend. I want to take a minute to thank everyone that made it possible for this gathering to happen here, all the folks that planned and worked and prayed for it. I'm grateful for that cast of people that gave themselves to make this possible, and I'm grateful for all of you men showing up here in this moment. It's sometimes just those small acts that really add up. It's one of the more remarkable phenomena in this world, this notion of compounding, the notion that one small action followed by another, given time, can foment a brilliant and huge and before unimaginable future. As we orient ourselves here in these hills, working to uncover our hidden wholeness, I also want to acknowledge that the phenomenon of compounding can be degenerative, that it can act to destroy when we aren't awake to the impact of the ills done in this world. The ancestors of these hills are many: the rock, the stream, the trees, the flowers, birds, bugs, crawlers, walkers, soarers, swayers, even the still to our eyes, human and non-human ancestors. Over time and through this degenerative compounding, some of those have been undervalued and forgotten. Some have been removed and wiped out. And I think it's important that as we sit here in this place that we acknowledge first what an incredible privilege it is to be right here, right now. And also the incredible cost that some have paid to afford us that privilege. So men, what is ours to do as we make and hold space for the cost and privilege as we work to become more whole? I'd like to share a story of wholeness of the Monacan people whose home is here in the Shenandoah Valley. Their ancestors have inhabited this region for the last 10,000 years, and about the time of the first European colonists at Jamestown, they numbered about 10,000 people. They were agricultural people who grew the Three Sisters crops of corn, beans, and squash, the story which Doug Goodfeather tells in his book. They lived in villages in dome-shaped homes of bark and reed mats. The Monacan were hunters, deer, elk, and small game, and they would leave their villages every year to visit their hunting camps. They traded with their neighbors, the Powhatan to the east and the Iroquois to the north. They mined copper, which they wore and fashioned into necklaces that their neighbors greatly prized. The Monacan buried their dead in mounds, and that distinguished them from their neighbors and the way they interacted with the land and perhaps the wholeness they felt in the land. From that first contact with European colonists in 1607 all the way through the end of the 19th century, the Monacan adopted first a posture of indifference to these new faces, then avoidance. There are few recorded violent encounters with the Monacan. Over time, family groups gradually moved westward to avoid confrontation with the community and with growing settlements of mainly white, mainly Christian colonists. There are numerous records of Monacan peoples living amongst settlers in towns like Bethel and Lynchburg, where they came alongside white communities for cultivation and grew one of the largest tobacco economies in the South at that time. Around the 1850s, the Bear Mountain settlement, about 100 miles south of here, was the largest left intact community of Monacan in Virginia, numbered about 30 large families. Like other indigenous people, the Monacans struggled to preserve their identity and their ancestral culture. In 1924, the Racial Integrity Act made it legislatively impossible to do that, both banning interracial marriage in Virginia and also requesting binary racial identification on both birth and marriage certificates. Effectively, as of that time in Virginia, you were either white or you were colored. It wasn't until 1997 that the Monacan reclaimed their identity through the Virginia legislature, being able to identify themselves correctly. So as we gather to awaken to our wholeness, I'd like to acknowledge the Monacan people on whose ancestral homeland we are gathering. I'd specifically like to acknowledge their fight to maintain and reclaim their identity, and with it, a critical part of their own wholeness. A wholeness that wasn't forgotten or mislaid, but was taken. And it's my hope that this acknowledgement could be one of those small actions that will compound into a more brilliant, more beautiful, and more loving future for all of us.
Thank you so much, Eris. Beautiful. I'm Terry Chapman. Look around. Wow. Look around, brothers. What a beautiful gathering of men as we gather together. I've been working with this program team that you see here before you since about January to weave this time together, to prepare this space for you and for us. Because we know that at the very center, at the heart of the matter, that all transformation is relational. And we're here to be transformed. We're here to uncover, to remember, to source our hidden wholeness. And it's all about relationships, brothers. It's all relational. And that's our intention. To peel away the layers, to create potions, to dispel the spell of separation, the myth that we are separate. We'll do that work this weekend, brothers. There will be rich opportunities for a connection this weekend. We've planned some spaciousness for you to be in relationship, for you to choose to wander the lands. There's beautiful trails in these mountains for you to explore. And so we've tried to integrate as much of that kind of relational time into our schedule. And there's a lot to do. There's a lot to learn to do this work together. So we want to invite you to take care of yourself during this time, to do what you need to do during this time, to remember your wholeness. And keep the edges hot. We try to start on time, end on time. Counsel will be very important. There'll be opportunities for counsel this time. And it sounds like we've already kind of got the response. We've shifted, as some of you men know, from the Lakota word, aho, which has been a long tradition. During our cultural review, it surfaced that this is a bit of appropriation. We want to set aside and find something that is more organic to who we are. And so we're trying the response here. That's pretty good, isn't it? And it has that kind of double meaning, right? I hear you, and I'm here. Let's try that again all together. Here. Yeah, I think that's going to grow on us. It is. So the container has been set, the physical space that we're gathered, this beautiful place in the mountains and the foothills of the Shenandoah, and the energetic space that we've developed for us as well. Steve mentioned the journey of illumination, to center, gather, connect, release, and serve. And we invoke the 4 intentions of counsel: to listen from the heart, to speak from the heart, to be spontaneous, and lean of speech. Here? Here. The lean of speech one is difficult for us sometimes. But I want to add to those intentions 3 virtues this evening, 3 intentions that we can carry with us through this time. And the first is Sophia, an intention to open to wisdom. Sophia. We commit to wise conversation, informed by the good, the true, and the beautiful. Can we open up to wisdom? Can we have an intention to open to Sophia during our time together? And humility, a second virtue. I know that I don't know. I know that I don't know. And so I want to have an intention of curiosity and humility. We need the self-correction of other people in our community. because we don't know? Can we invoke the virtue of humility when we gather together? And finally, the virtue, the Greeks call it dialogos, or dialogue. Can we engage in generative conversation together to take seriously how another perspective can help create a synergy of new emergence in what I know and see and sense and feel? Those are three virtues I want to bring into our time together. I invite us to bring into our time together as we carry with us the four elements of fire, air, water, and earth as metaphors, but also as beings. Metaphors to carry us over into a deeper sense of meaning. I like what Doug Goodfeather wrote in his book, "What we speak, we create. Our words are powerful, and they can heal as well as destroy, which is why we must be mindful of the intention behind our words and use our voice for good." Thank you, Doug, for those words. So, brother, as we move into this time together, Gino brought this prayer to our attention as a planning team, and I'd like to just share that in conclusion. God, in this moment, help me set aside everything I think I know about you, about reality, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, everything I think I know about life, so that I might have an open mind and an open heart and a new experience with all that you have created. Please, Divine One, help me see the truth, most importantly, about you. Here.
Good evening, brothers and sister. My name is Glenn Siegel, and I live in land that was on land that was once Osage hunting ground, bordering both Quapaw and Caddo land, which is now called Arkansas. And I live in a town, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Reclaiming our hidden wholeness. I'd like to start by offering you a blessing from a poet named Jan Richardson. It's called Blessing for a Broken Vessel. Do not despair. You hold the memory of what it was to be whole. It lives deep in your bones. It abides in your heart, which has been torn and mended 100 times. It persists in your lungs that knows the mystery of what it means to be full, to be empty, to be full again. I am not asking you to let go of your grip on the shards that you clasp so close to you, but to wonder what it would be like if those jagged edges were to meet in a new pattern that you have never imagined, that you have never dared to dream. I'd like everyone to please stand. And face one other person. And as you do, look into that being's eyes and know this is a miraculous being. It's taken billions of years from this universe and this earth for this being to be here now. And also know that this being has everything inside, all the resources needed to become and live into wholeness. And don't take for granted the miracle of this being just because there's so many of us. And know that this person looking back in your eyes sees your wholeness too. And as you sit back down, hold this awareness that you are surrounded by beings with the capacity to be whole, and that that is true also of you. Sit back down now. So, what is wholeness? I want to tell you about an experience that I had that gave me a glimpse, at least, of what wholeness might feel like. I was in a northern New Mexico ponderosa pine forest. It was about 8 years ago, and I found myself drawn mysteriously across the forest about 50 yards to a tree and to a particular small dead branch about eye level. And on that branch was a small tuft of lichen, a kind of lichen that hangs and drapes like Spanish moss. I knew this what was calling me, because as I neared, the energy magnified around me, and I was just filled and held with this sense of love surrounding me. I could only call it love. I had no idea. I'd never experienced anything quite that powerful before, but I knew it was love. In that moment, I was so fully present that I no longer had any observation of this being anymore. I had no thoughts. I had no judgments. And that, to me, was the closest I ever came to wholeness. It was a sense, in looking back, that there were no walls, there were no boundaries, I had no separation, I was fully interconnected. That experience led me on quite a journey to understand how a being, another being, could give me this. And I became an apprentice to lichen so that I could learn more. And as I've journeyed with lichen as my teacher, I have learned probably the most profound lessons of my life. That's another story. Wholeness, what wholeness is not, is a collection of compartments within us, of separating parts of ourselves. Wholeness means that we're living with an intention to integrate ourselves, to hold all parts of ourselves, and to know all parts of ourselves. particularly those that were banished, that were suppressed, that were repressed into our unconsciousness because they had to be for us to survive. When parts of ourselves continue to be unknown and in our unconscious realm, they are quite powerful. They have control over our reactions and our behaviors. And as Howard Thurman says, and they stop us from living fully into our true selves unless we can bring them forward into our consciousness. And I want to give you a quote from Howard Thurman. There is something in every one of you that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. It is the only true guide you will ever have. And if you cannot hear it, you will, all of your life, spend your days at the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. I also want to say that we tend to believe that we have to heal ourselves, fix ourselves in order to be whole. But really, we are innately whole. And what we need to do is to cultivate our wholeness and call upon it to heal ourselves. That's a very different position. Do you hear the difference? We are brought up to believe that we need all kinds of external help, medicines, many things to fix us. And what it does is it says to us, you are not innately carrying the resources you need for your own wholeness, that you need to get it from some external source. And what I am saying is that what we need to heal ourselves is to use our own wholeness to do so, which we have within us. And so our task is to cultivate our wholeness and use that for our healing. How do we cultivate our wholeness? I want to share a model that's helpful to me. And it's offered by a man named Eligio Stephen Gallegos, who talks about 4 windows of knowing. And those 4 windows of knowing are connected to the 4 directions, the 4 seasons, and 4 times of light and dark through day and night. We evolved from Earth. We are dreamed up by the Earth. We would not understand ourselves fully if we didn't understand that our psyches, our minds, everything about us came from our relationship to everything about the earth, the seasons, the light and dark. In order to understand ourselves, we need to know this. I happen to have an education in the realm of psychology, and I had a pretty privileged one with elite schools and the highest level of academic training and medical training and psychiatry training. And not one time was I ever told that the natural world had anything to do with me. that's a pretty small understanding of what it means to be human. So these windows of knowing are full presence sensing, which I connect to the east, where new light comes and spring is new growth. It's where we see things with fresh eyes, we perceive things directly, and we learn from our perceptions. In the south, when in our hemisphere, it's the warmest, most blossoming time of year, full bodied presence, it's full-bodied feeling. We learn from our emotions, we learn from our feeling states, which is body-centered. And in the West, when the sun begins to set and the autumn is a time of decaying and changing and diminishing of the life of those blossoms, and things become dimmer and twilight and mysterious and somewhat hidden, that window of knowing is connected to our imagination and our dreaming. We know, we learn from our imagination and our dreams. And in the north, the time of year in the winter when things become still, it's a kind of governor of the seasons, when everything is put on pause so that there can be an integration and a reconfiguration of everything that goes on underground so that new life can come again. That's our time of deliberation and heart-centered thinking. That's the fourth window of knowing, heart-centered thinking. And I say heart-centered because in our culture, our thinking is not, it's taught as linear and rational and logical. And it's used to suppress those other parts of our ways of knowing. It certainly is used to suppress our emotional life. We're told, yeah, you can feel that, but not too strongly and not too long. You can grieve, but it shouldn't go on for this too long, or we call it pathological. Our thoughts suppress our window of knowing, of feeling. Our thoughts certainly suppress our imagination because we're told, oh, that's just your imagination. It's minimized and devalued. And what I am saying, to be a fully whole being as a human, each of these windows of knowing is as important as the other. Thinking is not more important than imagination, for example. So there are ways to really cultivate your imagination, cultivate your emotional world, not suppress it. Really embrace your grief, for example. You need it. You don't need to get rid of it. You need to really nourish it and live through it fully so it passes through you and it teaches you something very deeply. I want to just say something that was in a recent Richard Rohr reflection, and it was a reference to the Gospel of St. Thomas when Jesus says, if you bring forth that which is within you, it will save you. If you do not bring it forth, it will destroy you. So wholeness, to me, is about bringing forth what is within you already and giving it, embrace it. During this time at Awaken, we will have opportunities to explore these parts of ourselves in counsel, nature, ritual, image, and story. And it's an opportunity to be vulnerable in the presence of other men, not something we're taught to do. And it's through vulnerability that these changes can really happen. So I invite you to give this your all and be as vulnerable as you dare and then some. Because we're honored and grateful that you've chosen to do this work with us, but I'm asking you to give it your all as though your life depends on it, because it does. So, am I out of time? I'll stop here, and I'm going to introduce Shalane Harkin, who about a year ago I came upon a poem, and after I read that poem, a part of me rejoiced and said to myself, this is what I wanted someone to say to me. Part of me wanted to hear these words spoken to me. And so I continued to follow her and bought books, every book that basically she's written. And Karen and I, my partner Karen and I, read a poem every morning. We've done this for over a year at breakfast as part of our practice. And what I love about Shalane Harkin's poetry is that it's fresh, it has an immediacy to it, it has an intimacy that is compelling because the simplicity of the form helps it, the delivery of this in a potent, profound way while still being playful simultaneously. What a rare gift. I want to just read what the description in on her website is about her. Inspired poetry has been flowing through Shalane Harkin's work for years, though her publishing journey is less than 2 years old. Her launch into sharing poetry with the world has been mystical, transformational, and filled with prayer experiments gone right. In her poetry and in her life, Shalane continually invites the fumbling, suffering parts of our human nature along with our divinity to meet for tea in the heart, to have a great laugh, celebrate our sacred grief, and share a bare hug. That's kind of what we do here at Illumin. Her poetry inspires redefinitions of God as a force of profound love and intimacy that embraces our wholeness and encourages our gifts to blossom. So I am delighted and honored to pass the microphone to this gifted, young, brilliant poet, Shalane Harkin.
Hi, guys. It's quite a trip to be here amidst all of you, I gotta say, in a really cool and powerful and profound way. This is a really beautiful gift for me, and it has some challenges too, which I'm really happy to be meeting. And if I just want to be explicit about this, if my presence brings up any edges or discomforts for you, as I imagine it might, to just that we can all join each other in embracing and going into, to the degree we want to and can, and learning from and receiving the gifts of those discomforts. Thank you. I'm really deeply happy to be here, and what's really hard is to walk the walk, because my poetry talks a really good talk, and the poetry comes from walking the walk, but I do that in the comfort of my home, on my couch, behind my computer screen. That's usually how I share my poetry, so there's a level of distance that's safe and comfortable. And all of my poetry comes from being willing to open my heart, and the reason that it's hard to open the heart, it sounds like such a nice thing to say, let's all open our hearts. But the reason that we don't is because often we come into long avoided, sometimes severe, deep, hard to encounter feelings when we open our hearts. And the only reason there's any separation in our world and in our beings is because what we find in our open hearts hasn't been accepted and hasn't been valued. We haven't found value, collectively speaking, yet, and we haven't understood the extraordinary bravery that it takes to bring our consciousness in and to be with, rather than flee, rather than weaponize our feelings, rather than invest so much in creating a protective facade that we haven't yet discovered collectively the value of staying with what's inside of our open hearts. And so our cultural narratives are investing every day in almost every way in separation, which is it's devastatingly painful to walk this earth and feel separated from each other and from our own selves. And it's been quite an interesting experiment to see how, in the times when I choose bravery to try to see if the pain that I meet when I go in might be a gift, and that the stories it tells about me, which those are the scariest things to encounter. It's not so much the sensations, but the narratives connected with these feelings. If those might not be true, and if there might be something generative and beautiful and life-giving in these energies. And it's these energies opening and becoming energy in motion, rather than sapping my life force, becoming alive, becoming emotion, and flowing and being set free, that a sacred process happens when we do that. And the energy that we thought was a foe becomes a gift to our consciousness, to our lives. It becomes medicine to our lives. And so all of this poetry, I'll read you a couple of my poems, come from this, I call it somatic mysticism, or somatic poetry. So anyway, I just want to really honor this human journey that we're all on together, and this interesting, what feels like to me, turning point that's beginning. Maybe it's begun, but that I feel that it's accelerating, and I through an intolerance, more and more of an intolerance, more sensitivity to the miseries of our separation. And so in that, as so many evolutionary leaps come from environments, circumstances becoming unlivable. And so I feel this turning point. It's not that our pain needs to go away, but it's how we choose to relate to our pain, rather than hide and flee and turn it into something that perpetuates pain and separation, to create sacred, safe space around ourselves where we can, with each other's support, be powerful enough to open and move through and beyond into new territory together. So, thank you. So, now for a poem. This is the one that Glenn first discovered, I think. It's called I No Longer Pray. I no longer pray. Now I drink dark chocolate and let the moon sing to me. I no longer pray. I let my ancestors dance through my hips at the slightest provocation. I no longer pray. I go to the river and howl my ancient pain into the current. I no longer pray. I ache, I desire, I say yes to my longing. I no longer pray as I was taught. But as the stars crawl onto my lap like soft animals at nighttime, and God tucks my hair behind my ears with the gentle fingers of her wind, and a new intimacy is uncovered in everything. Perhaps it's that I'm finally learning how to pray. Thank you all. So this poem isn't obviously about not praying, but about about moving through this passage of old practices that represented ourselves as a fragment to ways and practices, ways of thinking, ways of operating, ways of relating that express ourselves as a whole and that relate to ourselves as a whole. And my God, we need that. We really, really need that. We are full, whole beings, and we need to be seen. And to the degree these narratives, these narratives that have just far outlived their usefulness, that impact all of us so much, they keep us awfully small and awfully lonely. And I'm so excited to do my little part in this precious life, and these next few days with you all in particular, to loosen those some and to get a breath of our beautiful, inherently connected aliveness. Do I have time for 2 more poems, John? Okay, sweet. All right, so this poem, I'll read this one. This poem, I have to give it a kiss. This is the one that changed my life. It's the reason why I'm here. It just kind of went wild, this poem. And it reminds us that we don't have to take the world as it is, our structures and systems, on a collective level or on individual levels. We don't need to take them for granted. We are creators, and we're agents of change, and we're powerful, and we are creative, and we're plastic. Our brains, our minds, our beings are changeable. So this is kind of addressing that on maybe one of the bigger scales. It's called The Worst Thing We Ever Did. The worst thing we ever did was put God in the sky out of reach, pulling the divinity from the leaf, sifting out the holy from our bones, insisting God isn't bursting dazzlement through everything we've made a hard commitment to see as ordinary, stripping the sacred from everywhere to put in a cloud man elsewhere, prying closeness from your heart. The worst thing we ever did was take the dance and the song out of prayer, made it sit up straight and cross its legs, removed it of rejoicing, wiped clean its hip sway, its questions, its ecstatic yowl, its tears. The worst thing we ever did is pretend God isn't the easiest thing in this universe, available to every soul in every breath. Thank you so much. It's time we really start relating to ourselves as we want to, in ways that feel true and loving and truly beautiful and connected and more free. We deserve that. I'm going to read one more. Feels feisty to read this poem at a retreat with 300 men, but it's called it's a poem addressing. All right, so it's called "The Feminine Is Here," and what this poem is talking about is that this turning point that I mentioned. It's the energies of what's in the wisdom in our bodies, of life force wanting to move through us and gift us with its aliveness and its wisdom and its embodied truth and anyway, so the feminine principles, our feelings, our intuition, our inner guidance, all of these things that have been repressed in all of us, and that we all need each other to liberate and bring back. So this is, I use this term, the feminine, but this is about all of us. All right, here we go. The feminine is here to crack open your body, women and men and all, and finally release the poison of every ancient, uncleaned wound. The feminine forces are here to crack open your old ideologies and shoot new life through you like a seed, hard and closed for so many years and suddenly kissed into transformation by the great destruction of light. The feminine is here to pull you from the measured, surveyed land at the edge of the wild forest of your dreams, and finally toss you into the mapless territory of your heart. The feminine is here to lay your impressive certificates of learning at the feet of inner knowing, to pluck you from the discipleship of only an outward master and lay you at the altar of your inner truth. The feminine forces are here to remind you that God can live in the earth, in the hips, in the deepest shadows, that she is planted like a wild rose in the darkest furrows of your pain to teach you to mother your frailties rather than dominate them and bring the wound from exile into embrace. The feminine is here to bring you home just as you are now, to undo conditions around enoughness, to undo every corset cinched around your voice and spirit and return you to the full belly of your sacred breath. The feminine is here to reunite tenderness with power, to help you source this from the great hidden sea within, and for you to feel the intimacy of God pulsing her embodied song through the rivers of your blood and back to the holy ocean of your heart. The feminine is here to tell us in no uncertain terms, we are carrying new wisdom, a gestation of God in the womb of our consciousness, and a great never-before-seen beauty is soon due to be born. Thank you, guys.
There we go. Brothers, if you can just take a wiggle, give yourself like a 10-minute to like adjust yourself, because we're going through a lot of good, beautiful work. The energy is flowing. Turn to a brother and just in the next 40, 50 seconds, tell each other, after what you've heard right now and so far, why is it important for me to be here? Why is it important for me to be here? Can you wrap it up, brothers? Thank you, thank you. Wrap it up and take your seats. Thank you, thank you. Wrap it up and take your seats. Thank you, thank you. Wrap it up and take your seats. Thank you, thank you. Wrap it up and take your seats. Thank you, brothers. Thank you, thank you. Wrap it up and take your seats. Let's take 2 deep breaths, just nice, big. One more deep breath from the belly. So my name's Gene Gallegos. My nickname is Gino. I get the privilege of introducing our brother, Doug Goodfeather. I want to tell you a couple of quick things, especially the men who are the new guys here who've never done this before. So we talk about the men's work and this healing work and ceremony and good medicine and miracles and quantum change in consciousness and liberation. I've come to believe that that's based on breaking 3 important rules for the work. As men and as women and as human beings, it seems that we've learned 3 important rules to our own destruction. We learn the rule of don't talk. Shh. Quiet. Shut up. Don't trust anyone. Her, him, them, this. And the clincher, don't feel. Oh, you can feel anger and hatred, yeah. But shame, sorrow, loneliness, and those 3 rules, brother, keep us imprisoned. But here, we welcome the grace and the courage to break the rules. And the energy you are feeling is what happened when human beings come together, when men come together, and we start to talk. We start to talk. Not from here, and maybe from here. We start to trust each other, ourselves, our bodies, the earth, creator, our souls. And we start to feel all of our human emotions without being enslaved by them, without being puppets to them. Being human is not a mistake. You have a right to be here. So what I love about Doug Goodfeather's book, I'm going to read you what it says on the back. It's beautiful. Doug Goodfeather is a full-blooded Native American Lakota born and raised in the traditional indigenous ways of his elders on the Standing Rock Indian Reservation in South Dakota. He is a direct descendant of Grandpa Chief Sitting Bull. Breathe that in. Woo! He is the executive director and spiritual leader of the Lakota Way Healing Center in Colorado and the co-founder of the Spirit Horse Nation. You can visit the Lakota Way Healing Center online at lakotaway.org. During the last couple of years, I don't know if you remember life being like a total train wreck every time you turn on the TV, but the last couple of years, I remember thinking, what? Where, what? And I became as open-minded as the desperate may be. And I was searching, where are the elders? Where's the hope? Where's the love? What's going through in the country and the world and my community and him and her and them and what? And I found a group online called the Native Wellness Institute. And brothers, I binged on them every day as they shared Native and Indigenous wisdom for anybody who was online. And you can still look them up. And I was so desperate for hope. I would take notes. Everything they said, I was like writing. And I remember hearing them say that Doug Goodfeather, have you heard about what Doug Goodfeather's doing? He's working with our people, those who are dealing with life, everything that we're dealing with within the pandemic and beyond, those dealing with boarding school and the traumatic issues that have been resulted through multi-generational abuse with the boarding schools, through land grabs, through addiction, through war, through trauma. And this guy, Doug Goodfeather, is on the front lines. So I was like, Doug Goodfeather, and I got the book and I was reading, and I got the chance to serve here. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try this Doug Goodfeather. I'm gonna call him out and see if we can get him here. And the mind was like, yeah, right, yeah, he's an answer. Like, what? You don't know him. He doesn't know you. You know him nothing. You know, he's never been to an Illumina event. Why would he want to help you? All of the don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, right, was raging. And I prayed, and I was like, you know, what do I do? And I remember Tuesday, 9:45 in the morning, I drank a cup of coffee, and I heard a voice, call him. So I look up Lakota Way Healing Center, and I'm like, okay, it's ringing. I'm going to use my professional voice, leave a very concise message of this is what he's not going to know. Hello, this is Doug Goodfeather. And I'm thinking, okay, it's going to say beep. Hello, this is Doug Goodfeather. I'm like, Doug Goodfeather? And he's like, yeah, I said this is Doug Goodfeather. And I'm like, blah, 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 Lumen, blah, blah, men's word, blah, 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 don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, blah, blah, you know. Help. And help came. So without further ado, Doug Goodfeather.
I'm very honored to be here. Iwa chanwashte washte chichapi, wiaka washte milo. Y'all understand that? Just kidding. I'd like to greet you with a good heart. My name is Doug Goodfeather. I'm very honored to be here and to be a part of this journey of all of us. As we go through this life, sometimes we learn a lot of things and sometimes we get stuck. We get confused as we maneuver through these lives, and to hear everybody speaking of their experiences, of their growth and their healing, the beautiful poems that are written. You know, one of the longest journeys you can make in your life is the mind to the heart. And in that journey, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And it's going to introduce you to a lot of people as well. And it's going to take you places. Because when you make a decision to start to heal, you're literally changing the course of your history, of your future. Every time you change something in your life, you change the course of your future. So if we're living a chaotic life and we come back into ourselves and start to heal, you literally change that course of what's going to happen in your future. And a lot of times we come and we face ourselves in the mirror and we think about all the mistakes we made and all the guilt, all the shame starts to overtake us. We start to talk about it and we start to talk to ourselves and put ourselves down. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve that. We start to do these things. And we make ourselves stuck. We go to war with ourselves. We become our worst enemies. But something comes along in your life to wake you up, to bring you to things like this, to change your course of the future. Not only yours, but your families, your friends, and how that is, and how spiritually intelligent that is. coming into your healing process. Because at that moment that happens, you open up, we'll use a scientific term of quantum physics. You open up a path with that as it recognizes you. And it starts to work with you. It starts to make you understand these mistakes you made were only teachers in your life. To teach you about the people that are waiting for you in the future. Because these teachings, you have to be nourished by these teachings for the work we got to do in the future. And sometimes we have to go through the storm. But in the storm, the Buffalo people are in there. They're going to bring you through it because they're made and they're built to go into the storm. Because they never run. They always know that if you go through the storm, you're going to gain wisdom there. You're going to gain strength and healing, understanding, confidence. But first you must understand the gifts that you're given on this earth, the given rights you're born with. And these are our tears. A lot of times in our lives, we're oppressed by our tears, by our fathers, our grandfathers, our moms, our grandmothers, friends, relatives, even the neighbor's dad will oppress you, will shame you and blame you for your tears. You see, these are given rights that were supposed to teach us how to heal and give us answers to our questions and to help us move through the storm. But when you oppress these given rights, this is why we get stuck. Because these given rights are so intelligent that they guide you through life. And as we talk about the movement, we pray with our voice, our minds. We have to learn how to pray with our bodies, with your actions, with gestures, with smiles, with loving and caring yourself. And so when we get into the storm, the Buffalo people are going to teach you. They're going to make you look at yourself first. They're going to bring a mirror and put it in front of you. First, you're going to go to war with yourself. Get mad, angry, pointing at yourself, blaming and shaming. All of a sudden, you're going to start to humble. You're going to even probably have an argument with the Creator, wondering if the Creator is real, if the Creator loves you. As you stand in that storm, you do this, and the Buffalo people begins to teach you about yourself and these mistakes and why you made them, why you're here in this storm. And in that storm, you begin to get nourished with the power of healing, with the power of the storm of the Buffalo people and their wisdom. And as you heal, you start to see the storm starting to lighten. And the more you heal, the more the storm lightens. And one day, there's going to be no more storm. But when you come out of that storm, there's going to be people waiting for you there. This is where you're going to begin your work. And sometimes this storm may last a week, a month, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It all depends on how you understand your healing and how to come out of that blame and shame. Because one of the things that hurt us the most is our loved ones pointing fingers or blaming and shaming us. We talk about a lot of things that we experience or that we hear in this journey, people's experience. And these are all your pieces of puzzles that fit into your life the way it's supposed to. Because we're all a piece of each other's puzzle. And we fit perfectly in each other's lives at the moment we need it. And so there's no coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in luck. What we're here for is meant for us to be here through this journey of healing as men, as men coming together and to understand our tears, these given rights of our dreams, the food we eat, how we pray, how we move through this rite of passage in life. Because your birth is a rite of passage. Into this life is a rite when you come through the sacred portal of your mother. And we have rite of passages as you grow up. Your parents teach you different things as you grow up. There's a point where you come to the fire. Preta. One of our greatest philosophers, the old man. Preta, the fire. Never lie to you. If you disrespect yourself when you're around that fire or anybody, it will burn you, or the smoke will follow you, and teach you compassion, love for yourself. So as a kid, you tell the kid not to go there, that fire, it's going to burn you, but don't listen. So you let the kid go. The fire burns him. Teach him. These are the things, this is where a lot of us are. A lot of times we get stuck in this journey of life because we keep playing with the fire. One day it's going to burn you, wake you up, rattle your cage. A lot of times when we go through a healing process, let's say a death in the family. A death in the family is devastating. Daughter, grandson, mother, father, grandpas, grandmas, friends, comrades. And there's a ritual that we do when there's a close relative that passes. We cut our hair. We cut our hair because we want to learn the process of healing in the hair as it grows back. It also teaches you how to take care of yourself, how to groom yourself, how to, when you pray, you're going to remember that person. Talk, reminisce. For one whole year, you will mourn. You will mourn that loved one. And as that year comes, your hair grows and grows. It shows the healing process. Because the hair is our senses. It's like an antenna. You can sense things. So you can use your face hair if you want. That's kidding. Because there's I see a lot of eagles out here, but I see a lot of bald eagles too. But I'm here just to share my experiences and my teachings that I've learned from my upbringing, and how, when I share them, I didn't realize how impactful they are in people's lives. I didn't realize that. But these are just teachings the way I was raised and how I was raised. Because everything taught me to say these things, to have this philosophy, to have these practices that I use in my life to help people come through their pains and their hardships. And sometimes, in life, when life gets heavy, sometimes the work you do gets strenuous. But the purpose of that work is very important. But sometimes you might get burnt out and want to give up. But the purpose is so strong that it puts you right back in her. Somehow, some way, by showing you something or making you feel something or something somebody says to put you back in her. And many times I have been through this. Many times I wanted to walk away from some of this work I do because of how hard it is sometimes, because you're working with human emotions. And we come here to this earth to experience these human emotions, to understand them, to make memories from them and take them home with us when we go home, to share these stories. So sometimes these emotions get heavy. And we have to have a way to deal with these emotions, to let them out, to let them through us. And for me, I go into the sweat lodge. In the sweat lodge, it represents the mother's womb. So it's the mother's stomach. So as you guys were beating the drum is a universal instrument, powerful. But the first drum that you will ever hear and feel is your mom's heartbeat. That's why it's indigenous to you, because you came through that sacred portal into this life. And it was your mom's heartbeat. It was her rhythm that balanced you, that put these cymatics in you, these memories in you, but also you to her, because you came from the spirit world into her. And through this rhythm, you get a balance in this world and life. It teaches us these things. So when we hear a drum beat, a lot of times it's familiar to us. Or right away, we can feel it. And right away, your body remembers your mother. Tenses, or you hear it and you look over there. And it tenses. Reminds you of your mother. That's how powerful a lot of these things are. The simplicities of life that is shared through us by a lot of cultures, by a lot of ideas and prayers and sacrifice. As we know, in each part of this world, there's different cultures. The Alaskan, the African, Southern cultures, Asian cultures, Western cultures. And as you look at all these cultures, you can see the way they dress in all of these regions of where they live on the earth. This is how Mother Earth dresses them. It might be the Alaskan people. Look at the way they dress. So the Mother Earth is dressing all these cultures, all these people. But it's also teaching them language. Mother Earth is teaching language because there's new things that arise, new things that are discovered. So we create the language that comes with it. So new languages are birthed that way as well. So Mother Earth is teaching us also rituals, how to create a ritual, because from the beginning of time, there was always a sense of praying, a sense of talking to this great spirit, always, no matter what. Even when you were kids, you probably had that natural sense, the innate knowledge of the spirit world. So, as we understand this kind of spiritual intelligence, spiritual healing in our life, sometimes we get lost. How do we find spiritual healing? How do we find wholeness? How do we seek this stuff? You see, our body is so intelligent. Our spirit is so intelligent. We don't even realize that when our body starts to heal us, it starts to push all that depression out. And then you start to feel it, get sad. No, I don't want it. I'm better go to the doctor, find out what's wrong with me. Give you a pill, lock you right back into that depression. Oh, you feel good up here, but down here is all depression waiting to come up. So the pill locked it down there. What if you missed it that day? Boom, some of it come up. What's wrong with me? Oh, you're depressed. Doctor says, you're depressed. Oh, this doctor has a degree, so all right, I'm depressed now. You know, the doctor labeled me, so I'm going to be depressed now. See how easy that was? How easy that was. For somebody to get locked like that. So these rite of passages teach us how to go flow through these things in life. Not to just fight, but to flow and grow through it. And these challenges that come up and challenge us. You see, when you have your purpose in life, that is what God, the Creator, instilled in all of us as a purpose. It's all instilled in us. And once you might put that purpose to work, nothing ever can stop it. And the reason is because the Creator instilled it in you. So it's meant to be here. So you're meant to be here to do your work. And then in that purpose, there might be multiple purposes. So you might be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, all of this, counselor, or just big brother, uncle. But these purposes give you reason to go through this life without hindering. But a lot of times we get challenged that way with our purpose. But as long as you stick to the purpose, you will never be homeless. You will always be fed. You'll always have shelter. You'll always have family. Because that purpose does that for us. It builds this community. It builds healing relationships for all of us. Because we're all a piece of each other's puzzle. So we're here to do this. We're here to learn, to unlock some of the things you're stuck in. You're stuck. You see, we forget the intelligence of us, ourselves. When you learn to work with your spirit, any question you have, you can ask it in the air. And I guarantee you'll get the answer. But you got to learn how to do that. You have to understand that anything we want, we can get with just the belief of it. It's like hope. Hope is an imaginary word, but what we put in it is what gives us that hope. What we put in it and what it nourishes, how it nourishes us and teaches us. So there's levels to get to the knowing. There's faith, one of the levels. There's belief. There's hope. There's knowing. When you get to knowing, this is where you have to learn to be humble with your humility. You can't get arrogant because it would be taken away from you. That's how powerful the law is. Very powerful. It'll give you what you want. But you have to have balance as well. So I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm very honored to be here. This is the first time I've ever been to something like this, but I have traveled all over the world with my uncle, Kevin Locke, and he was a hoop dancer. And we've been all over the world to different countries. We talked, and I shared this vision from the time I had it in 2005. So in 2006, I've been carrying this vision. But all these years, till 2019, finally got recognized, finally got noticed. But all those years, I struggled, wanted to give up, wanted to just say, it doesn't work. But something get me stuck to that commitment. So I stayed true to it. And boom, it came. Because it's a broad work. A lot of things go into this, what I do. So it took that long I had to be nourished. Divine time. Through that. And the intelligence came through all of these experiences I've been through. And when I talk about loved one death, loved ones dying, it's my daughter, my grandson, who made their journey home. But I too learned so much from that. It was one of the most beautiful experiences I've been through, but one of the most hardest as well. So I learned and I grew through that. To be standing here with humility and humbleness. So I'll share a song with you. And it talks about coming, the wind, the whirlwind coming to wipe you down, to take your pain and your sufferings from you and take them away. You see, everything has a purpose, even the wind. Khatia topa, 4 direction, the 4 elements. The wind, 4 directions. All has a purpose as well. Everything that God, the Creator, has created is our relative. Mitaku yeoyasi. Oyate hata poyo itate mawani elo hai. Oyate hata poyo itate mawani elo hai. Oyate hata po itate mawanielo hai oi techiawa we chuzaki oyate hata po itate mawanielo hai oyate hata po itate mawanielo. So when we talk about these elements, talk with them too. Call them. Ask them to guide you and teach you. Because you're a part of them and they are a part of you. We're no different. All created by the Creator. So remember that. We're all related. Echitu.
Mike, would you like to make some announcements?
Good evening, men. If you haven't met me, you've heard from me. I've been the one emailing you constantly for the last 2 months. Just a few things, housekeeping issues. One, after this session, we'd like to invite all of the ritual team members to stay here to begin rehearsing for tomorrow morning's session. If you are a council stoker, please meet downstairs in the room right beneath this. It's called the Ladies' Parlor, to receive instructions on leading council tomorrow morning. Also, so as to save on cups and trash and take care of Mama Earth, if you have a water bottle with you, please carry it with you, refill it at the water stations. There's also on the back side of this building, on the lower back porch right over there, there's a water fountain faucet that you can fill your bottles at as well, and an ice machine. So please help us care for the planet that way. And then one last announcement. If you have a red Chevy from New Jersey, license plate L26HBP, your flashers are on over in the main lot. Here.
So we're off and running. This evening, there's a fair amount of imagery work happening here. There's a fair amount of metaphor work. We're going to see some ceremony, some ritual. And just invite you to tap into what is in your subconscious. And the invitation that I'd specifically give this evening is, as you leave, is to give attention to your dreams. See what your dreams have to show you. See what comes up as you interact with these elements as we start. And the suggestion when you're laying down in bed tonight, about to close your eyes, you've thanked your Maker and you've thought well on your loved ones. Make that last thing an invitation to the dream weaver to come and visit you and give you dreams that would help you and come alongside you as you go through this week. And if you can, when you wake, rise gently. Take your time. Ease into wakefulness. Invite the light in gently. And if you've got a journal beside you, it's a great way to capture your thoughts there in that moment, to remember them and hold on to them and reflect on them as day goes by. So good luck, good dreams, and with that, good evening.
Men, I have, two more sets of instructions. One, you are invited to a reception in the lobby downstairs right now. Two, in the morning, there's a contemplative sit at 7:30. Your schedules say that it's in here. It is not. We have moved it to what's called the cathedral. Just uphill that way. You keep walking and you'll see an outdoor stone chapel. You'll see an outdoor stone chapel just that way with benches. Gather there at 7:30 for a contemplative sit. Go in peace.